if 10.2
it's blown up this time.
Yeah, if 10.2 was the end,
If
right,
it was the end.
then the question is, was there ever supposed to be any more?
I love talking about cut content.
Was there ever
Yes!
supposed to be a 10.3? Was there something in the middle that we missed? Is there perhaps a big magical tower that was very heavily implied to be super important to the world in the middle of the level up story, and then no one mentioned it again? Was there perhaps something
It was icy.
called Vakthros?
Yes. Very icy place. Like our icy primal incarnate. Yes. So this is all fairly interesting. There's like a few candidates for cut content or things being different. One of the more obvious ones is the Bronze Dragons. Another one was Vakthros, and people were realizing, as Night Stalker is pointing out here, like Vakthros is the main. It is the main structure of the Azure span, which you can see in the concept art there. Also, it's its own like little micro zone in the map. You know those places in the map, like, you mouse over Shatterat City and Warlords of Draenor, and you're like, oh, that must be a raid. And nothing happens. There, look at him.
Ah, you fucker.
You just wanted more hoof content.
Please.
So Vakthros is like that, and it's a bit weird. Now, there is, if you fly to the very top platform on Vakthros, what you'll find is a message from Malagos. And this message basically, so this is in fact integral to the plot of the expansion. And I don't think anybody noticed it while it happened.
Oh, I did, and then forgot.
What happened is Malagos drew all the ley lines in the Dragon Isles together into Vakthros, right? And whatever that did, all the power there was partially instrumental in upholding the seals on the vault where the other incarnates were imprisoned. So when Razageth appears there, and she basically says, I Lamau, even if I fail, I win in the level up campaign. That's because just by disrupting the area, she disrupts the tower, weakens the tower, and then that is what allows her ultimately to free all her mates while she gets herself killed. So you could say, the other thing about the ley lines is basically, if that goes tits up, the Azure span blows up. Now, there's two ways this could go. Way number one is that what happened in game is, yep, that's what Vakthros is. It's a major quest POI, which is why it looks like that in the map. And that's it. We've already went through those plot points, and the Vakthros maintenance message from Malagos. Yeah, that's what Razageth was doing. That's it. The other side of that is, was there more? You look at this, you're like, this is very icy. What is this big ice magic tower? Could this have had anything to do with the ice magic, Primalist? Also, why was the Primalist future very frosty?
Especially when you consider, well, where did the fire boy go? Into the fire hole with all the fire?
What?
Where did Farak went underground into the big lava place? And then where's Vernoth? Emerald Dream?
Very rapid 10-minute discussion patch.
Yeah.
Fury incarnate.
Yeah, 5 minutes of, hello, roommate. I will never trust you. Frack turns one green boy red. And she goes, hello, roommate. Let's be friends again. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Emma goes, oh, okay, sweet. And I think Vernoth actually makes sense as a character, is the way they've taken the forward. But definitely you go, was there a pivot at some point? Now, was the pivot early in the expansion? Was the pivot during expansion production?
I would say during production.
It feels like pretty early during production.
Oh yeah, I think
because you've got all this concept. Well, yeah, there it is.
Yeah, I think whatever
you've got the concept art and the focus, and it could just be we maybe had this and thought we could do something cool with it, and then decided not to. Because why would you if you had ideas? Why would you not go? Maybe. Maybe this is just a cool tower that they teased and went. Maybe we'll figure it out. Maybe we will. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. But there's certainly whenever you're getting a 10-2 in a game that for the only other time it's had no 0.3 is because they shot the bed super hard. You go, well,
is that true?
Warlords and Shadowlands, right? Where Warlords, you're like, what happened there? Oh, sorry, we had to cut the middle of it out. Sorry about that. Then Shadowlands, you go,
Okay, so
COVID, we had to cut
if
the
we're to
middle
go
out.
through them, TBC doesn't count.
I
because
find it
it's
hard to
in-
count anything before like Mists.
You look at Wrath. What's Wrath? Wrath is Naxxramas, which was kind of reused. So Naxxramas, Ulduar, Trial of the Crusader, which was a quickie, and Icecrown Citadel. Okay. Cataclysm. You had your Cataclysm had 3 tiers.
You had all the small raids too.
So that's the thing. Now Cataclysm
You
had
had
3
RS and
tiers,
all that stuff.
but of course you had Bastion of Twilight, Blackwing Descent, and Alakir as your first tier. So it was a pretty chunky tier. You move into MOP. Your first tier was Mogushan Vaults and Heart of Fear, which is like 2 raids but 1 tier overall. Then Throne of Thunder, then Siege of Orgrimmar. 3 raid tiers. Those were long seasons.
They were very long.
Warlords of Draenor, of course. You had Highmaul, Blackrock Foundry, and Hellfire. I think it's like, see, in Legion, it was funny because Legion, the way that it was sort of presented to us, it felt like they were doing Blackwing Descent and not Vortex Pinnacle. The one with Valiona and Thraxian.
No, Throne of the Four Winds? No.
Valiona and Thraxian, the Cho'Gall's big tower. The first raid in Cataclysm. So the way that felt in Legion, especially because Emerald Nightmare was tuned to be fairly easy, was that those were like kind of sort of semi the same tier and we weren't really sure. So like WoW has fluctuated between like number of raids and number of tiers.
Yeah. And Tier's the one that feels more important.
So if Tier's the one that feels more important, then Mists of Pandaria was a 3-tier expansion. Warlords of Draenor was a 3-tier expansion. In terms of like a true tier, Legion was Nighthold, Big Fucky Temple, and Taurus.
I feel the classification of Emerald Nightmare is not a real tier. It's a bit funky.
It did, but it didn't have... There's like certain boxes that a tier usually ticks that it didn't.
Yeah,
and both raids had a lower boss count.
Yeah, so basically we're struggling here with any definition whatsoever existing because the game's been so different over the years.
Well, effectively.
Yeah.
But like, so BFA ended up being actually not small.
Yeah.
With the totality of all of its content.
Yeah, because it was 2 expansions, because there's also in the middle of it. It's not true at all.
Yeah, because I guess you got, Uldir, which was a full tier. No, it was a full tier and how it's...
Wish it wasn't.
Yeah, so you had Uldir, Dazar'alor, Eternal Palace, and Nihilotha, 4 tiers. Pretty chunky, it's just that they came out kind of slow and the game was borked for a bunch of time. Shadowlands was 3 tiers over far too much time.
Oh, yep.
And now it seems to be 3 tiers plus a Fated with a bunch more in between. It's just that, I think, to people who care about raid tiers... the stuff in between is low quality fill and they don't care. But to people who don't care about the raid tiers, this current situation is actually a hell of a lot better. So I almost wonder, whenever Blizzard talks about better player retention, if they're perhaps not talking about the raid dungeon people and maybe they're talking about...
They almost certainly are. Almost certainly
And that's
are.
just speculation, of course, but...
I would be so shocked if they were reporting better, like mostly better retention from those people. I imagine they're reporting better retention from people who log in and have dragon raiding and they feel better doing that. And they have things to do in the world. I'm assuming that's way up, way higher. Outside of the fact that no one can do rares in Zarlak Cavern, but that's a different story. That's maybe a different story. Because they moved people out of that zone real quick and the zone kind of blew.
Yep.
I imagine.
So it's hard to know then. Okay, so there's that side of things. You could say that Vakthros, maybe there could have been a raid and some real crazy big shit going on, and instead they maybe cut that and they just used it for the leveling content and moved on. There is, of course, the N'Zoth teases. There's one here in and around Vakthros. Of course, there's a similar location in Zarlak Cavern that looks quite old god-ish.
Yeah,
That's them teasing.
I'd be willing to call that very pure coincidence.
Yeah.
Almost certainly.
So what's this community speculation?
Let's find out together.
Pre 10.1.
Yeah, this is Vakthros, right? Yep.
So this is a user called
here,
Telogris.
Oh, Telogris Rift.
Yeah. Oh, basically just saying this is too overdesigned for what it is.
Yeah, that's exactly the fear, right? We're like, yeah, both of these places look like they could have been zones.
Yeah, it's like you put a lot of effort in and maybe you didn't use it as much as you could have.
Yeah, and that brings up the discussion of, was it planned or was it loosely planned or was it cut or was it a fledgling idea in someone's head once? And they went, well, the Azure span needs a bit that looks cool in it. And they never expected more. They just kind of also had this thing that's like, is this a big thing for the future? Was the fact that Khadgar was about but didn't do anything ultimately? How much of it is...
Khadgar helped defend the Dragon Isles.
He did.
Yeah, he fended people off bravely
He did.
during Farak assaults.
And the Azure span.
And the Azure
He
span.
was kind of key to all of the mages been there in the Azure span.
Yeah, then
doing with the blue stuff.
Yeah, so yeah, then he teleports Kaligos to safety and then just chills. Does a Farak assault. Goes back, has a beer, relaxed.
Maybe, possibly.
Because it's weird. It's like, yeah, and Khadgar showed up.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of nothing happened.
Yeah.
So
Well,
second
just-
mecha dungeon thoughts.
Yeah, the idea of it maybe being part of it. Maybe that was a plan at some point. I don't know if that
See,
was true.
was this supposed originally part of the Vault of the Incarnate story? Because it is part of the Vault of the Incarnate story.
See, the early map concepts, I just was the last sort of expansion.
What?
I don't know if that's completely true.
Yeah. Oh, so apparently Vault...
Ah.
What?
Interesting.
Oh, no, that happens. That's why Razageth attacks Vakthros. She, like,
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
rumbles it up, and
Yeah,
then the seals break, which is a bit weird because they're very far away from each other, and they kind of didn't... I feel like nobody really knew what that...
Oh, it's magic.
Yeah.
Magic question mark. Which is, to be fair, half of WoW's MacGuffin's stuff is just magic question mark. So like, I cannot wait to find out how the Mother Oath Stone
how
has
the Oath Stones
anything to
work.
do with the new moon or the embrace or Amir Soul. I can't wait for that to be somehow mentioned. But yeah, I don't know if I believe this in any capacity, but I could, because obviously it could just be stuff changed.
Hang on. Marlamin. That's a big
Yeah.
brain. Big brain, very wrinkly.
Marlamin.
Wrinkly big brain.
Yeah.
Here's the absolute earliest version of the islands I was able to find. Vault of the Incarnates used to be an island on the bottom right. Oh, which I suppose then
That would make more sense to Vakthros.
do you know what it would look like?
Seems like this moved it. Oh,
The prison. Or the prison dungeon near Borealis that's just
Paul
like
the Gore.
off on the right.
Yeah.
This is just me talking about prison island off to the right. There's no deep meaning at all.
Yeah, I think it makes more sense. Does it make more sense being? I thought it doesn't really matter, does it?
So,
I guess it does, but yeah.
do you know what probably should have happened?
What?
Razageth should have done something, and then in a cinematic, we should have seen a humongous magical surge, sort of flow through the world, blow a bunch of shit up, perhaps blowing shit up through Thaldraszus, and maybe destabilizing some bronze stuff, allowing for bad things to happen at the temporal conflux. And then that would simultaneously lead us into Thaldraszus to fix the problem there, and then also... And of course, that could be timed with the rebellion. So, in Thaldraszus, you would have had the Draconid rebellion and the impact of the tower in the Azure span being damaged. That could have happened at the exact same time, which could have meant, or made for a really intense, Warlords of Draenor were going into Talador to take Shatrath or whatever, like a big, big, big narrative moment, and that would have led directly into the raid. But instead, just you sort of held W.
It's open now.
It's open.
It's open now. Go in.
Oh no. Yeah, it's like there wasn't much flair, much oomph,
It's
much pizzazz.
It's exactly what we're saying almost at the top of the stream about the connective tissue being super thin and weak. Where like where was the Infinites attacking the Bronze Temple, the Temple of Conflux? They just said, and the Infinites took it over. You're like, fuck, did you not think to give us a shout? Like, could you just, we were literally over there in Valdraken. You could have said the bat signal up, went, here, champion, come fight off these boys. But instead they're like, whoops. Sorry about that. Turns out they got it. We weren't paying attention. So I guess there's a little bit of that, yeah. That's the stuff that feels a little bit weaker for whatever reason. Maybe just spread too thin.
Yeah, a bit funny. Because you could imagine a Warlords of Draenor that, didn't have most of its main narrative moments, and it would kind of just be, you sort of, you sort of
Bothered about like.
It's just your equivalent of wandering around the yard on a Sunday.
Potting about, going, there's some orc stuff here, there's some nature here. What are these bird people?
Story.
What are these Arakoa? Boy, they have a real lot of lore. It's a shame they don't reuse it more.
Yeah, funny stuff. So that was a fun like kind of community rumor that was spreading all over the place. Yeah. And certainly it's not a poorly founded one, because people are, they're thinking about cut content, because one of the times this famously happened was Shatrath, and then recently in Shadowlands, of course, the content cadence was a bit slower. It seemed like Blizzard tried to save that by doing the Fated raid tier, which is to say, has the quick and dirty savior fix now became the norm because we have been price anchored to a lower standard?
Let's find out, because I love paying more money for less content. You should see the price of things around where I live.